Hey everybody, I hope you've had a good week, and I wanted to once again welcome y'all into part 4 of the Sanctification series that I'm talking about. I'm Jessee Harrell, the youth director here at St. Paul United Methodist Church in Wytheville, Virginia. Now, in the past 3 parts, we talked about what sanctification is and what it means. In part 2, we talked about the idea of you reap what you sow, and you should be sowing to the eternal and not to the temporary. Now, last week, I know y'all caught it, but I was in North Carolina, so I left my board here. I know y'all are really mad at me. But last week was all about not playing the comparison game, understanding who you are. And this week, well, we're going to get to this week. But first, I got to go ahead and pray us in. So, okay, bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for everyone watching this right now. Be with them now and always. And whatever they may get from this, may they truly remember what's the most important thing in their life, which is getting to know you and growing with you. I remind them that every day, and I pray that they get something from this. It's all in your name that I pray. Amen. Okay, y'all know what that means. It's time to go.
There is no escape. Don't make me destroy you.
Okay. So today, you might notice I'm up in the tower classroom at the top of the sanctuary. Got my Bible, I got my little dry erase board that I've already written on with this lesson's title. I won't let you see it yet. I guess you technically know because it's the title of the video, but this has been about sanctification in this series. And I guess this is part 4. In my first part, I introduced y'all to the idea of what sanctification is, which is the lifelong process of you becoming more and more like Jesus Christ every day. And I also added in to always stay true in the goal of being like Jesus Christ, even though Jesus is perfect and we can never be perfect. So part 1, I explained it all. It was really long, it was 30 minutes, and I just talked. And then the last 2 parts, which have been about, what are you going to reap? And what are you going to sow, and then what are you going to reap? And talking about what's eternal and what's temporary, and I'll walk you through Galatians, which I highly recommend that book. And then last week, basically I told you to be yourself and don't play the comparison game. And I had comparisons to Shaq and Stephen Curry and The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. But the last 2 weeks were really, short. Really easy messages for you to try to understand. And this week's is too. This week's is incredibly important, but it's so easy to understand. But you have to live out this one. You have to mean this one, this week's. So, with the rain falling, up in this echoey room, I hope you can hear me well. I know I can. You might even be able to hear the rain. But up here this week, we're going to talk about learning. I'm going to talk about learning, and I don't know how long this video is going to go, but I think it's very important. In fact, I think it's one of the most important videos I'm going to have in this series. So snap in and I hope you enjoy this. Let me tell you a story. When I was in 4th grade, all the way back when I was 10 years old, I had Harry Potter-like glasses. I was super short. My hair was a whole lot blonder. And I really liked history. I really liked history. This is little fourth grade me. The problem is I didn't have any kind of work ethic for learning things, continuing to gather knowledge. I didn't have anything like that. Little fourth grade me, I knew that I liked history, and that was Virginia history that year. So I liked it, but I really didn't have any work ethic. Towards the end of the year, and I'll never forget it, my teacher, her name was Miss Asbury, which, it was a fun class. It was a typical fourth grade class. But she assigned me this essay. That's right, an essay. If you're in school, you know exactly where I'm going with this one. I had to write an essay. Well, they said it was a project. They were like, oh, it's a project. But it was an essay. You had to write about someone. And I was given George Washington. George Washington. One of the founding fathers of the United States of America. And I was supposed to do a project on him. Have it sleeved up in a nice folder with pictures, and I had to write a little essay on his life. All I had to do was a biography. A short little biographical essay. I didn't know what to do. I looked at this sheet, I looked at this project, these instructions, and I had no clue. And so I was sitting there the night before. I also procrastinated, which if you suffer from procrastination, that's probably one habit that you need to break as soon as possible. But I was sitting there, and my mom was trying to help me out. And bless her, she was fighting a losing battle. And I didn't finish it. An essay on George Washington. And so I took in what I had. It was the end of the year. And I turned in the paper. Failed. I failed. I got an F. I got an F on that paper. I wasn't happy. My mom wasn't happy. And I needed to learn how to write an essay more. I need to learn how to be good at writing. When I was in college, I didn't think I was any good at writing. I really didn't. And I was in the middle of writing a 55-page paper. And one day I thought about it. And this was like fall 2018. I had to write a 55-page paper, a 35-page paper, and a 45-page paper. And I remember thinking at one moment, back to when I was that little kid that failed turning in a little 2-page George Washington essay project. And immediately I didn't think that I was bad at writing papers anymore. Immediately in that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, I've written these papers for years. I've learned how to do this for years on years, and I've always thought I'm bad. And then all of a sudden, I've just realized that I've come so far in learning how to do that, learning how to write, to the point that I'm writing a 55-page paper. And I thought I was bad at writing. But I remember back when I couldn't even write a little 2-page with pictures essay project on George Washington. A semester later, when I was in student teaching, I had to put together something like an 85-page paper. It was a lot. I remember talking to my students when I was in the classroom teaching them, because I had given them a 1-page essay. And they're freaking out. They're like, Mr. Harrell, I cannot believe you've given us this 1-page essay to write. They're freaking out. They're mad at me. they're taking it personal that I'd assigned them a paper. And I told them, I was talking to them about how I was in the middle of writing about an 80-page paper. And I told them one day that they'd understand, they'd see how far they'd come. And they didn't see it. They didn't believe me. They didn't believe me that one day they'd look back and see how far they'd come. That they couldn't write a page paper and then all of a sudden they realized they were writing an 80-page paper. This is about learning. This is all about learning. And sure, I may be a youth pastor, but I'm a teacher at heart. And a lot of my job is teaching. I love teaching. I love it so much. But I had to do so much to get there. I had to learn how to do so many things. So when I tell you that pretty much everything in life is learning, I mean it. I truly mean it. That pretty much everything in life is learning. If you ever think you're bad at something, look back at what you've done. Look at how far you've come with maybe just that one thing. And you'll realize that you've only improved. But you have to continue to challenge yourself to learn every day in order to get there. That's my nice little beginning talk. Okay, scripture time. That's right. You're going to Proverbs chapter 24. And we're going to be reading verses 3 through 7 in Proverbs chapter 24. Now, let me tell you, if you are in my youth group, which, you know, if you're watching this, there's a pretty good chance that you are in my youth group. Those that aren't, hi, I'm glad you're here. But they have heard this multiple times. I love talking about this. I love talking about these verses from Proverbs 24. So, when you look at that, I'm actually giving you time to turn to it this time. How about that? Nah, I'm going to say you're already there. Okay. I love these verses. And if you were at the dinner before we went to Resurrection, I talked about these. My message was centered around these. So I'm glad to get to once again crack into them. Proverbs chapter 24, verses 3 through 7. By wisdom a house is built, and by understanding it is established. By knowledge the rooms are filled with all precious and pleasant riches. Wise warriors are mightier than strong ones, and those who have knowledge than those who have strength. For by wise guidance you can wage your war, and in abundance of counselors there is victory. Wisdom is too high for fools, and the gate they do not open their mouths. By wisdom a house is built. Wisdom. That's pretty much the theme of the book of Proverbs. Again, if you're in my youth group, I've challenged you. I've lost count of how many times of reading Proverbs. I've challenged you to read Proverbs. And many of you have, and I'm so happy that you'll have. I've had this order of books where when you finish Proverbs, I give you the next book, which is James. Coincidentally, we're talking about James next week. I'm really coming with that message. It's going to be nice. I look forward to it. But Proverbs, it's the first book that I recommend for my youth to read. Because it's all about wisdom. And right here it says, by wisdom a house is built. Wisdom. And by understanding it is established. You see, now if you don't know what wisdom is, go ahead and crack into Proverbs. This is my plug to you to read about it. Read Proverbs. I have one of my youth who's very similar to me. He's read Proverbs multiple times, 3, 4, 5 times. I know I've read it pretty much the same amount, if not more. And it's very helpful to learn about wisdom and knowledge and what you should be doing in your life. And that's what Proverbs is about. By knowledge, the rooms are filled with all precious and pleasant riches. Okay. By knowledge, the rooms are filled. Let's imagine in your brain, you have a bunch of rooms. Okay? You have a bunch of rooms. Now just label all those rooms with different subjects you learned at school. Maybe label one chores. I know your parents would be happy if you had a brain room with chores. And I mean, just have a bunch of rooms. Like it says in your brain, knowledge. Imagine knowledge is filling your brain and your rooms. So above all those rooms, let's imagine there's a second floor. All that should be your faith formation room, your Christian walk, your room focused on your salvation and sanctification. Your room focused on Jesus Christ. That's what that room should be. Notice it's above all the others. The ones below it are very important too. And in many ways, they can actually help you believe about being a Christian more. But that floor is the most important one. So, again, I used to be a teacher. I still am a teacher. I do a lot of teaching in this job. I love teaching. So all those subjects you learn at school, I am in no way downplaying them because they're a great thing to learn. It's very important. But, well, I'm talking about being a Christian here. I'm talking about sanctification, which is your lifelong journey to being more like Jesus Christ. It continues to say, wise warriors are mightier than strong ones. You know, last week we talked about Shaquille O'Neal. He's very strong, and he's very smart too. I'm not calling Shaquille O'Neal stupid. I'm definitely not. It's just when I think of strong, I think of Shaquille O'Neal. And again, he's not foolish. But here, warriors, like wise warriors, are mightier than strong ones. My first mindset goes to David and Goliath. Goliath, this big brute. And then David, just this kid who was smart enough and wise enough to know he needed a sling and something he had to be a ranged attack against this gigantic Goliath. He's smart enough to know that. So, wise is mightier than strong. And those who have knowledge than those who have strength. Never downplay knowledge. For by wise guidance you can wage your war. And in abundance of counselors there is victory. I love that. As a teacher, I love that right there. In abundance of counselors there is victory. That is one of the biggest support verses of teachers out there. In an abundance of counselors, there is victory. You see, you need people to help you learn. You need people to come alongside you and show you how to do things. Show you how to develop your learning, because you can't do it all on yourself. You can't do it all by yourself. You can't. You can't do it. You need someone to teach. You need someone to learn from. And we all need that. There's not one person watching this that doesn't need learning. We all need teachers. We all need someone to learn from. We all need someone to look up to. We all need someone to help counsel us or mentor us. It's incredibly important. And while we're on it, if you're leading, if you are a leader, if you're not learning, then you're not leading. Wisdom is too high for fools. In the gate, they do not open their mouths. You see, the wise, They go through life knowing what to do. And when they don't know what to do, they're smart enough to learn about it, to understand it, and try to know what it means. People that are foolish just walk around and don't question things because they don't know how to think about it. They've never learned how to do it. So, I said just now that all leaders are learners, which y'all might not know it, but if you're a youth watching this, one day you're going to be a leader. Pretty much all adults are a leader of some kind. One day you'll be some sort of leader. I knew I wanted to be a teacher when I was in 10th grade. Now, I'm not a teacher now. I mean, right now I'm a youth pastor and I love this job. But I'd have never thought I'd have been here when I was in 10th grade. And that's okay. But I was open to see where I'd go. But I said that all leaders are learners. But let me take it a step further, just to really hit this home for you. All Christians should be learners. All Christians. If you are a Christian, you need to be a learner. And you need to be a darn good one. You need to be a darn good one. You see, if you're a Christian, well, you need to be reading the Bible. You need to learn from the Bible. Learn from people in your life, those you look up to, your parents, your family, people from your church. You need to have people that come alongside you and help you with that. Help you with your faith formation. So all Christians should be learners. And if you're a learner, if you're watching this, and let's say you're a senior in high school. Let's say you're a senior in high school. I guarantee some of you are. And really, any age you are, I promise you'll understand this and relate with it. You're a senior in high school. You look up to someone in your life that means a lot to you. They teach you a lot. You like to learn from them. Heck, I could be one of those people. If it is, I'm happy to be, and I'm honored and humbled by that, if that's true. But did you know that people younger than you can help you learn too? You senior in high school. When I ran cross country in high school, I found that I learned so much from little 7th and 8th graders just by listening to them. And it was so weird because I thought I was so much smarter than them, and I was a senior in high school, 18 years old. And they were, 12, 13, something like that. And I was learning from them. So listen to people older and younger than you. Keep learning. And the more you learn, the more your faith is tested and the more your faith is strengthened. Let me say that to you again. Listen to people older and younger than you. Keep learning. The more you know and the more you learn, the more your faith is tested and strengthened. You see, if you never learn, your faith in Jesus Christ is never going to be tested. You'll go around thinking you have the strongest faith in the world. But if you never learn, your faith will never be tested and it will never be strengthened. It will always be weak. It will always be weak. Because again, by wisdom a house is built. And by understanding it's established. If you don't have wisdom or understanding, your house isn't very strong. You could even build the house on the rock, and it's not going to be that strong. You've got to work on building that house. You got to work on learning. If you're never challenged, then your faith grows stagnant. Stagnant. If you're not challenged, your faith grows stagnant. What does the word stagnant mean? Well, still. Not moving. I think of water. I think of a body of water. Something that's not moving. A puddle, for for example. Some of you might know where I'm going with this. You have a puddle. It's summer. The puddle's not moving. And an annoying insect is gonna have a lot of eggs in that stagnant, not moving puddle. So just to catch you up, your faith. Your faith I'm now comparing to a puddle, an unmoving puddle. So that puddle has mosquitoes lay their eggs in that. And from those eggs come blood-sucking mosquitoes. Some of the most annoying bugs out there. Can I get an amen? Yeah. I'm going to assume you're amening, but again, I'm the only one that's in the church right now. So your faith will be like a stagnant pond that breeds mosquitoes. And let's say those mosquitoes represent the sin in your life. They represent the sin in your life. But if you're learning, you're stirring up that pond, it's moving, it's not going to have those mosquitoes laying the eggs in it and hatching and all that. You'll still have problems, but you aren't going to have mosquitoes laying eggs in your pond and then sucking your blood. Ugh, hate them things. Sanctification is a lifelong process. I said it in the first part. Sanctification will happen your whole life. It's a process that does not end. You're trying to be like Jesus Christ. You're going to try your whole life. Learning. What a coincidence. It's also a lifelong process. You should be learning your whole life. So sanctification, lifelong process. Learning, lifelong process. Faith formation. When I think of the word faith formation, and there may be some different definitions of it, but I think of building a foundation to your faith, of a deeper understanding of your faith. And if you learn, you're going to be developing a deeper foundation there. Your faith formation will be happening. And if it happens your whole life, then that's a very good life. You won't be like Jesus Christ, but you have tried your whole life to be like him. You have modeled your life after Jesus Christ, pursued the eternal and not the temporary. You still fail and you're not perfect. But again, after a life of learning and a life of challenging your faith and building a foundation under your faith, well, you can look back. You can look back when you get that old. If you make it there, like let's just say 65, 50, 65, 75, 90, 100. And just like I said at the beginning of this video, how I mentioned when I looked back in my last semester, when I was writing a 55-page paper, when I looked back when I couldn't even write a 2-page project with pictures, and I saw how far I'd come. That's what I hope it'll be like when I get older. I get to look back and just see how far I've come. See how much I've learned. How much I've challenged my faith. And then when I make it there, I think mostly because I'm not that old, but I have a feeling that getting to see how far I've come is going to be so important to my faith by then. And that's why I think getting older is one of the greatest things about learning, because you get to see how far you've come. I get to see how far I've come since I was that little 10-year-old writing that essay. And if you're watching this in a few years, you get to look back and see how far you've come from right now when you're watching this video. Always learn. Always learn. And then you can look back when you've learned so much. And it will not only help your faith, but it will make it stronger.